What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we are in a last-minute rush with our 1JZ Lexus IS300 build. We had some issues with the stock ECU not controlling the drive-by-wire, so what we did is we put in a ECU Master EMU Black with a plug-and-play harness and got it running phenomenal. And then now, basically it's the day before the giveaway ends. The day that you guys are watching this video is actually the last day of the giveaway. So if you haven't got entered, wait till the end of this video, click the link in the description. But we have probably one of the most badass turbo setups that you could absolutely put on this thing, which is this Garrett G25 550 turbo. This thing is a V-band, stainless steel exhaust housing, internally gated. Just look at that, like that casting. This is a stainless steel casting, and it just looks phenomenal. And paired with the best manifold, which is this Artec turbo manifold. So this is a cast stainless turbo manifold. So it's basically a tubular exhaust manifold, like, you know, like one that you would see normally welded, like stainless, but it's actually cast and it's stainless. So all the ports are all smooth. Everything is basically built in like a CAD program. But the cool thing about it is this thing is V-band, and it's actually a mid mount or a bottom mount turbo. So this will just go down here like that. And you can see these little holes right here. Those are actually for the factory heat shield on it as well. Really rowdy turbo. This thing is gonna make a lot of power. We're on stock injectors and stock fuel pump right now. I might have some stuff that we could throw in there. We basically have a dyno appointment at 5 p.m. It's noon. So we have about 5 hours to put this manifold on, put this turbo on, make an exhaust to the downpipe, hook up some intercooler piping stuff, do an intake thing, and then take it to the dyno. And I'm actually gonna have my tuner remote in on tuner view, and he's gonna help me out with kind of tuning this thing, make sure that it's super safe, and it should probably it's gonna max out the injectors at probably like 370, 400 horse maybe, somewhere in there. We got a lot of things to do, let's go. We make the streams. All right, guys, so we sold the two-post lift that we recently put. We basically put this thing up in here over a year ago. We didn't really want to move it and unload it and do all this stuff. Same thing to these guys. They're basically loading up and taking it out of the way. So instead of 2 people taking it down, we had 5 people taking it down. So, and the plan is when we get to the new shop is to get some more lifts. So, yeah. See you later. You guys treat her nice. Cheers. Guys, so since we did switch to the EMU Black, we are basically deleting the mass airflow sensor out of this thing. Mass airflow sensor, it reads the volume of air and the temperature of the air at the same time. And what we're gonna do is convert it to like, it's kind of like a speed density setup where it has an intake air temp sensor. It has a map in the ECU, right? And then a built-in map sensor, built-in like 5-bar map sensor in the ECU, which is one of the benefits of working with it, like using an ECU Master, is you save like $100 on having to buy a map sensor because it's built into the ECU. So we need to add in the intake air temp sensor so it could do its own little calculation. And then we're actually gonna be tuning this thing on an Alpha N tuning strategy, which is throttle percentage based, and the ignition is based off of the boost level. But other than that, that'll make this thing drive pretty much like stock. So that's how we actually tuned the 2JZ Mustang before we took it on Drift Week, which was this exact, basically ECU and plug and play adapter. Basically the same exact setup, other than it was, you know, it's a 2J instead of a 1J. It's gonna rip and drive like stock. Turbo's out, boys. So it's only been 45 minutes. So in 45 minutes, I have now got T-bung welded. We have the stock turbo setup completely off. Now, basically, should we V-band the thing?
Don't try this at home.
Right, let's just do a quick little test fit of this manifold. So the cool thing about like this Artec manifold is it's literally designed to use all the OEM hardware with like OEM fitment. So on some manifolds, which we might have to do right here, on like 2J manifolds, on the cast manifolds, so you can do all the bolts all the way around it except for these bottom 2, and you'll get all the other ones in and then try to do the bottom. You can't get them in. So what you have to do is you have to do those 2 bottom ones, you have to put them in and then like tighten it as the manifold is going up, and then you can do the rest of them. But that's probably what we're gonna have to do right here just because of the clearances. Oh, yep, look at that. There she is, buddy.
Leave her on there.
I think we need to replace 2 of those with bolts. Well, see right here, because those are a little bit
Or I'll just fucking mash off the end that tightens the stud in there.
So it's 1 o'clock, a little update. So now we have the turbo officially test fit in here. You can see that we actually need to clock it down. So we need to rotate the thing 180 degrees down so the turbo drain is on the bottom. We need to clock this wastegate actuator right here, make sure that that is gonna be out of the way. So essentially what we're gonna try to do now is just pull the manifold off with the turbo if everything will stay on there. And then what we're gonna have to do is kind of figure out how much room we have, whether we're gonna go down with it with the charge piping, or if we're gonna have to like come up and then come this way and then go back down again, which might be an option. The other thing that I kind of thought I forgot about is blow-off valve.
That's not an anti-surge housing?
It is an anti, I mean, buddy, this thing.
Anti-surge housing.
No, this thing.
We didn't run a blow-off valve on the Supra because it's fine. We don't need one.
I think it's gonna sound the greatest. So on the stock turbos in Japan, they take the blow-off valves off and they just sound phenomenal. Yeah, let's just pull this whole manifold off and clock it, and then start messing with the oil lines, and then start messing with the downpipe. We'll be good.
Oh, you hear that?
Right off. Okay, let's loose all the bolts.
V-band.
See, that's I love all the new Garrett stuff.
yeah.
It's all so V-band inlet, V-band center section, V-band exhaust. And then the cool thing too is with the new G series is they have a dual coolant feed. So you could do the coolant on the top, like in and out, or I think it's in on the bottom and out on the top, or you could do it on the other side. So you could basically block it off. If your routing is really close, you know, you could do one on one side or both on one side. Works out really good. It makes for some really nice packaging. And even some OEM cars, they have them both on one side. So like,
That's how this is.
yeah, look, the in and the out, well, that is on the same side.
That'd be nice if it fit, but it don't.
It definitely doesn't. I just love how that's cast into the housing and it just looks so good. All right, guys, so getting pretty close over here. So now we have a 2-inch to a 2.5-inch 90 degree that we shortened a little bit and kind of stuffed up right there. When we push this down and clock it, we'll actually have a little bit of an airspace right there, so that should be good. And then we're basically just gonna modify this piping to have it come up at like a 45 degree right here, and then we'll just have a nice clean intake just coming up here on the edge. So we have the oil feed, we have the coolant lines right here that we're trying to figure out, and then we have the wastegate, since it is an internally gate, that we actually need to make sure that the clocking is correct over there. So almost what we need to do is give it like a little bit of a tighten.
Yeah, now. We need to tighten it now where we want it,
Yep.
and then take it off, tighten it off fully.
Yep.
What about the wastegate though? I'm worried about that.
We'll figure it out. Right now you can see that the wastegate actually works good because the way it's gonna clock right there. We have a bolt hole right there, and then we have a bolt hole at the top that is all good. So yeah, we're gonna
Lock it, tighten it, pull it off.
I would say let's stick it where it's gonna go and make a mark with a Sharpie, and then pull it out, take a little of that tension off, put it on.
Stick where the wastegate's gonna go? Oh, but tighten it. Clock the turbo and tighten the turbo as we want it to sit. Okay, cool, let's slow it down.
Nice mustache, buddy.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank
You
you.
get that a lot?
Yeah, I do actually. I get a lot of compliments on the mustache, almost none on the mullet. The mullet I got compliments on like 2 years ago when I first grew it. I cut it off and grew it again, and have not got one complimented on it since
Hey, well,
I
you know
started
what?
growing it
You know
again.
Nice mullet, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, boys. So while Sean is tightening everything over there on the turbo manifold and getting it like all dialed, we got it clocked, we got the lines fitted, he's doing coolant lines and all that stuff. While he's doing that, I had a spare couple minutes, so I started going through my cabinet, and what I actually had on the shelf was this Detox 300 fuel pump, which is pretty much a direct drop-in thing that we just stick it in, and then it should work. This is technically the Aristo pump because it has, we kind of lucked out and found a guy on Marketplace. See how it has this? So this is actually the front one, I think is the return or whatever. I think maybe, the front one's the return. This one right here is the one out of the IS300, and it does not have a return. So in order to do like a return style fuel system like this car has. We either needed to do this, or we would have had to like drill a hole in the top of this and then run like a 6-and fitting or something with like a bulkhead fitting. Worked out really good that we did this, but I figured, you know, we're already gonna be kind of pushing it 14 pounds on that turbo on pump gas with stock injectors. Again, I wasn't planning on doing the injectors, or even, you know, really doing this turbo until kind of last minute. So I figured the best thing that we could do to help this engine out on the dyno is give it a fresh pump. It should be perfect. It'll fit right in here. We'll be ready to rip. So gonna get that all installed while Sean's doing that, and then we're really close. So the only thing we have right now, I guess it's 3 o'clock. We have about an hour and a half to do the exhaust and then head to the dyno. So the bad thing is it's also snowing outside now too.
Yeah,
because it is Colorado. All right guys, so we have the turbo officially mounted on there, tied it on there, and pretty much ready to go. So Sean's kind of playing with some lines for the cooling system. So you can see we got this braided, and that basically goes to like the factory little barb there on the cooling system. You know, JZs, I always water cool the turbos. You like technically kind of don't have to, but you know, especially like on a ball bearing turbo, if you can, I would for sure do it. And it's nice that on a JZ, you already have the provisions in the block. We have the lower right here and then the upper right there. And then, you know, basically just get a line kit and plumb the lines. And then, especially if you're like driving this thing daily, driving it road course, if it's a drag car, it's not really too big of a deal. But yeah, now we trying to figure out a little bit of the intercooler piping. I think we have that kind of almost ready to go. Might have to shorten the lower radiator hose real quick. But overall, right now, it is 3:40. We have about an hour and a half before we technically have the dyno appointment, and we have to make an exhaust and a downpipe and put the wideband in it and make sure it runs. And fuel pump is in it and it works. Well, actually, we don't know if it works with that, but the fuel pump is in it and it should work. So we have a Detox 300 in that. So now it's basically just fabrication time on the exhaust. We gotta hurry. So exhaust is done. Man, that took longer than I wanted to. We're running a little bit late. It's 5:45, so 45 minutes after our dyno appointment. I called them and they said it was fine. We'll be there a little bit, probably after 6. Sean's hooking up the intercooler pipe and then the air filter, and then we need to put the exhaust on, set it down, plug in the wideband, make sure everything's looking okay on the thing, drive it to the dyno.
Yep.
We're almost there, buddy. All right guys, so exhaust is fully done. This downpipe turned out really nice. This whole exhaust literally took us like 30 minutes to mock up and get it going. So we choked it down to like a 2.5 right here, which that's all we have for the back, but you know, I think it should be fine. We're also kind of trying to restrict that Garrett a little bit to make it not like go full send. Maybe giving it a little bit more back pressure will kind of slow it down. But yeah, buddy, we got 10 minutes.
As they say, Bob's your uncle, so let's go.
Well, lower down, I need to grab the ECU.
Okay, guys, first start with the exhaust.
Oh my God, that turbo.
So we're on the dyno right now. We literally started putting this turbo on at noon, and it's 7 p.m. Basically, we left the shop at 6, so a 6-hour turbo install, start to finish, stock stuff coming off, and then this full exhaust, and then plugged in the wideband, did all that stuff. And now Steve Sampier, he runs Divulge Motorsports, so he actually tuned my Supra initially at M-Spec, and then he tuned my 2GZ Mustang, and then tuned the Evo on the stock turbo, and we basically made like 500 and some foot-pounds of torque on a stock 9 turbo on a 2.3 stroker. It's a couple hours to get to his dyno, and as you guys can tell by this video, we are a little bit behind schedule. And so we came over to our friends over here at Rowdy Performance. They're like 15 minutes from our shop, and they're nice enough to let us hop on their dyno kind of after hours. They're always hanging out here doing stuff. Steve is actually in there on the laptop right now. We're just gonna watch him do stuff.
Say hi, Steve.
Hello.
He's just playing around with stuff. And this is what's cool about technology, and this is why I really like standalone ECUs, is because you can't do this on a stock ECU. It was kind of a meme for a while on my 2J in the S14, just because it ran so good on the stock ECU for a long time. But then like now, having this as like a tool to just diagnose issues and figure out stuff is really rad. So Steve, I went and added a bunch of fuel in there too. I don't know if you see that.
I can see where you built these areas here.
So it'll just be a little bit fatter now than what it was. And I tried to smooth it out because it had some peaks in it. Because I just did the auto tune thing, and I added 50%, added a little bit more around it, and then smoothed it. Trying to be like you, Steve. Only got like 15 more years of tuning experience, right?
You get there faster.
So we melted a wastegate line on the way to the dyno. Sean is hooking up, doing some vacuum line stuff to it. We're making sure the vacuum line is not going to like the stock sensor going to the fuel pressure regulator. Make sure that, you know, it adds 1 pound of fuel pressure for every pound of boost that we're sending through it. And there's like a solenoid in it from the factory that kind of controls that. So we're just bypassing that solenoid because I don't know if the ECU master is telling that anything or not, which I'm assuming it's not. How much power do you think it's gonna make?
All you've got for a fuel system. So what were they?
So
there's the stock injectors, right?
Stock 370cc injectors. So we did put a Detox 300 fuel pump in it too before. So I was like, well, at minimum we'll put a good pump in it, so that way we know for sure.
370s.
Yep.
300 horse maybe.
300. A Rowdy 300 horse though.
A Rowdy 300. Yeah, we're gonna have to keep an eye on it big time.
Yeah, because what do you think about how the turbo, like just on the drive over, I sent Steve the log of me driving over here, and he was already like impressed with like. It was hitting full boost at like 10% throttle. You want me to key on?
Yeah, go ahead and turn the key on so we can make some permanent changes.
Battery's unplugged, hold on.
Guys, so basically what Steve is doing is he is leaning it out a little bit. It's a little bit rich right here, and so the duty cycle is a little bit more than we would actually like. It's like 95-98%, so we're trying to get it about 90%, and it still has enough fuel to where we could lean it out and gain a little bit more control of the injector. But yeah, so that's what he's kind of doing right here. He's kind of playing around on the fuel map and everything. We've been on the phone for a little bit over an hour, so you know, not doing too bad. But yeah, just hanging out here trying to make some power. So. Guys, so it makes full boost, which is 14 pounds, but the turbo literally just stands like straight up at 3,000 RPMs. So like full boost at 3,000 for a turbo that's capable of like 500 horsepower. Yeah, so we're like teasing this turbo.
No fuel that do it.
Yeah. I wish we did injectors, because if we had injectors, we could just.
We should have. We didn't have time.
Yeah. That is pretty much it. An hour and 10 minutes on the phone with Steve again from Divulge Motorsports. Huge shout out for him. Basically just logging in. He said he was sitting. Basically, what did you say you're doing? You're drinking a beer and eating dinner in his kitchen.
Yep.
So technology is really cool. So yeah, we pretty much maxed out the fuel system, and the air fuel is pretty much like spot on at like 89% duty cycle. So you can see him kind of hovering over the duty cycle. Is there anything, I guess, that we need to show him on the ECU? Basically, this is just kind of the log. It hits 26.6.
So this is, you've got gauge pressure and you've got absolute. Gauge pressure is what everybody's used to, you know, when you've got your boost gauge in your car and you're like, oh, I made 14 pounds. Absolute takes into account what we're actually feeling. So some people are used to KPA, some people like PSI. In Colorado, we are right around 80 to 82 KPA, which is about 12 to 12.2 PSI. That whole 1 bar, when people hear 1 bar, that's 14.7 PSI, and that is sea level. Mm-hmm. For instance, right, World Cup finals, why the records are always set at that time of year at that track is because they're actually on the positive side of everything. Yeah. The density altitude puts them at like 15.5. So Colorado 12.2. So you can do the math. You know, the gate pressure is 14 minus 12.2. We're 26.1 absolute.
Right at 14 pounds. So basically,
right,
if we went to World Cup finals, we would have free 3 pounds of free boost. Is what we would have.
Seeing the same number would look like 30. You know, or 29.1.
I really appreciate you kind of logging in and kind of, you know, like letting me watch you kind of go through the fueling table, and it was really interesting. I definitely learned a lot. Again, huge shout out to these guys over here at Rowdy Performance for kind of letting me sneak on their dyno last minute. All right, Steve. Well, hey, I appreciate it, man. I'll let you. I'm gonna drive this thing home, and I'll let you. I'll probably catch up with you tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, later,
Thanks,
man.
Dude.
Bye.
All right.
All right, guys. So that is it. Pretty much unstrap it off the dyno. Drive it home. So literally at 11:59:59 Colorado time or Mountain Standard Time, the entries close for getting entered for a chance to win that IS300 plus $3,000 cash. Or if the IS300 is not your thing, you could always take the $10,000 cash option as well. If you have too much MotionAutoTv merch or you can't think of anything right now, we are selling digital posters for this thing, so you could actually download it, print it out, use it as a background on your phone or on your computer, and we will send you over a high quality, basically it's a 10 megapixel picture of this thing that it's like almost like magazine worthy. I think it looks really awesome. That's pretty much it. Really appreciate you guys watching this video. Appreciate all the support on the giveaway so far. Good luck to whoever wins this freaking phenomenal car. I wish I got to enjoy it a little bit more. But yeah, we still have about a week and a half, 2 weeks before we know the winner. Usually about 10 days, we'll know the winner. So in that time, we'll dial in a couple more things and I'll be able to drive it here a little bit, but obviously I'm not gonna go out and just beat on it. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support. See you later.
Hey, this is a shout out real fast. Not a shout out, but a question. If any of you assholes work at Red Bull, sponsor us. That's good.
That's how you treat their product?
Well, I drank it all. It's empty.
Oh,
I treat their product in my tummy, buddy.